everyone. Today we have with us Brian Campanotti of Cloud1st.io. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Roy. Pleasure to
And
be here.
you bet. And congrats on your success. I better say before we start that we know each other. We've done a lot of these interviews, but this is the first one with someone I know. So
Small
I'm
industry. We've certainly crossed paths many times in the past.
yeah, and a ton of respect for you, Brian, and I consider you a friend.
Thank you.
I'm committed to maintaining professionalism, so we don't descend into inside jokes here. But again, thanks for joining us.
Fair enough. We'll do that in the outtakes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So as a start, just please share a bit about yourself and your company, Cloud1st.io.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I appreciate this opportunity. So Cloud First really is focused on helping clients with their archive modernization. In my previous lives, I've worked on the client side as well. Back in the days, I think when we first met, when I was at the CBC as an engineer at the Broadcast Center in Toronto, Canada, and I started a company called Mastech to essentially innovate in the area of digital archive and digital storage management. Um, and from there, I left in 2004 and joined a company called Front Porch Digital as CTO, where I worked for 13 years through our acquisition by Oracle. And soon after, it was clear to me that they didn't really share the same strategic vision as we did as a smaller organization. We had sort of committed ourselves to helping our clients from now until forever with their digital archives. We sort of held the crown jewels of the largest and most important media organizations and national archives, sporting organizations around the globe. And in 2017, I actually left and was one of the founders of Cloud1st.io. And really, what our focus is holding our clients' hand from the onset of the journey through to fruition of whatever their archive transformation strategies and vision might be. And really, what was important to me is that we didn't sort of oblige the customer to continue to buy licenses and license new software and have proprietary interfaces and wrappers. So really one of the focuses of our business is as we're helping clients with their transformations and their lift and shift off of these legacy archive systems is to remove any vendor lock-in, proprietary wrappers, APIs, interfaces. And at the end of the day, once we've done our job, we shake hands and we leave the picture, and the customer's free to go forward and conquer the universe with their content.
Excellent, excellent. And now the term you've used now a couple of times, archive transformation. It's a great term. And if you could just go a little deeper on that term and what it means to you.
Yeah, I think at the crux of it is really around the idea of migrating off of these legacy on-premise, complex systems. But it's more than just that, right? We're not just talking about a storage migration or copying all of your assets from this legacy system A to this new modern system B, because there's a lot of drag along that comes with it, right? There's typically plate air automation workflows, there's media asset management workflows, there's maybe even some custom tools that the customers developed and evolved over the years. So we need to look at this sort of archive transformation holistically and say, okay, well, it's not just about replicating the objects and uh, into some other place. It's really about what the transformation of the surrounding workflows looks like, and that's key to the customer's business, right? That's what has the most impact on their viewers. While we're doing our work, we can't just tell the client to stop stop broadcasting or stop creating content for the next year while we migrate. So it's really about zero disruption in the existing workflows, looking at a larger holistic picture of what this migration off of these legacy archive systems looks like and how it impacts each individual workflow, so that at the end of the day, there's a plan in place before we even start moving the first byte of data.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Excellent. Okay. And then of course, a large part of what you do is helping customers with analysis of their existing content libraries and analysis of their strategic vision.
Mhm.
And then you arrive at a plan to transform their archive. Is that a fair way to summarize it?
Yeah, that's actually a
Yeah.
perfect way to do it. So,
Yeah.
being an engineer and being one of the architects and deployers of these archives for the past 20 plus years, there's a lot invested in these on-premise infrastructures, right? And they run well, whether it be a Mastech, an SGL, a Diva archive system, whatever the flavor of archive management software that the client's using. They're robust, they're reliable, they're proven, they've been in the trenches for decades or more in these organizations. And the paradigm shift that we're looking at is moving away from this comfort into potentially an unknown world of object storage, cloud services, hybrid type models, private cloud in some cases. So there's a lot of questions, and I think really the value of what we do at cloudfirst.io is we have a team of data scientists. We have a sort of a program or practice, let's say, where we can do very in-depth analysis of the customer's own environment. Essentially, we take snapshots of their databases, logs, and things like that, and we can recreate their system in our labs. And from there, we do a deep modeling and extraction exercise, and sort of the work product out of that is like a 50-page report, but mainly graphs and charts and pictures. But really what it does is it puts the customer's archive utilization in black and white and gives them all of the data points and the KPIs that they need to really make informed decisions. And sometimes when we do this, because of the way that the customer uses their archive, maybe it doesn't actually make sense to migrate to cloud. So, we find inflection points, we find pieces of information and tidbits, and because of our experience, we know which ones obviously to hone in. We've done more than 50 of these archive assessment projects for every type of organization around the globe, and really have amassed a wealth of knowledge and certainly experience from myself and my team working in these environments for so long. So that work product is partly about informing the customer about how they use their archive, ingress rates, egress rates, how they utilize their data per workflow, how the newsroom uses the system, how the production people use the system, play to air, et cetera, et cetera. But from there, we do a lot of in-depth analysis of how the system itself operates. So we analyze networks and performance and error rates and things like that. So we have a lot of insights into the customer's own infrastructure and environments. And from all of that, what the end goal is essentially to build 5-year TCO models based on the customer's own data that maps out, okay, here's your 5-year TCO status quo. Continue where you are, on premise, on tape, keep on refreshing, or whatever capital is required to dump into this. And then we look at different TCO scenarios where we look at maybe disaster recovery and business continuance first, and increasing the customer's own SLAs. And then from there, we say, okay, is there a step then to cloud playout? Is there a step to cloud production and editing and things like that? So we look at 4 or 5 different scenarios, and essentially we deliver this to the end customer with no obligation. And the idea there is now they have everything that they need to do to build a technical case for an archive transformation, build a commercial case if the financial aspects of it were, this whole conversation about CapEx move to OpEx, that's a big nut for a lot of these organizations to handle as well. And seeing that all in black and white and not conjecture, right? We're not making assumptions about how the customer uses. This is actually data on how they use their environment. And from there, we deliver that to the customer. We can tell them exactly how long the migration is going to take, exactly how much it's going to cost, and leave them to their own devices to decide whether this makes sense or not, and whether there's a justifiable case to make a move. And we find that one of the biggest challenges we have is just because these systems are reliable, they're robust, they've been working for so long, that status quo is usually the easier solution, right? But then we've seen that organizations get stagnant and things don't change. So really, we're trying to get in there as early as we possibly can in the customer's own journey, because we can hold their hands through this. We can empower their decisions. We can empower their vision, their strategies. We can expose potential pitfalls along the way and provide them with all of the information and experience that they need to make this journey in an intelligent way.
Yeah. Excellent. And you just alluded to it, but when they do proceed, you're there to help them along the migration path, and the support, as time goes on too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, when ultimately our ideal situation is that we deliver this report, it shows the customer that there's a justifiable technical business case to move to, a new next generation environment. That there's a commercial case that they're going to save, X dollars over 5 years, mitigate risk, improve SLAs, enable cloud workflows, play to air, editing, post, distribution, things like that. And yeah, when and if the time comes that they're ready to make the move, we offer what we call archive migration as a service. So effectively, what it is a fully managed service to handle the entire end-to-end migration, and that's whether it's a 6-month migration or a 2 or 3 year migration, depending on the scale of data and the technology and things like that. We offer that as a full turnkey managed service. So again, the customer knows how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take upfront. So there's no surprises along the way. Our service is all inclusive. We deploy our migration orchestration platform, which is called Rapid Migrate, inside the customer's own data center. We leverage their existing infrastructure, so nothing moves. All the data never leaves their facilities. It's migrated from their own environment across their own networks, encrypted, of course, into whatever their target or targets are. We don't resell object storage. We don't resell cloud services. We leverage the customer's own commercial arrangements. We can help advise, of course, as part of our analysis engagement, where we can tell them, what price point their cloud provider needs to hit to make this all make commercial sense, et cetera, et cetera. But we don't play a part in those conversations directly. So during the migration, of course, we prioritize the customer's sustaining operations, right? We can't change what they do. So essentially, from the second that we start the migration, our Rapid Migrate platform utilizes 100% of their archive resources, and essentially dynamically finds the balance on a minute by a minute basis of what's being used for migration and what's being left to protect their existing production operations. So we sort of ebb and flow with the customer's own production requirements, so that maybe evenings and weekends we're using every tape drive and every data mover that they have in their environment, but during peak production hours, maybe we're not even doing anything. And that happens all automatically. Our migration team manages that migration, so there's no need for the customers to sort of actively participate once we've deployed and we've started migration. But we do provide a real-time dashboard so that the customer can see where we are in the migration, how much is being migrated per hour, day, month, how many tapes we've processed, how much data we've actually moved. And then, as I mentioned or alluded to before, is that it's more than just a file movement, right? So we're extracting these valuable assets from these legacy systems. We're also pulling in whatever metadata we can find. So we're extracting the metadata from the legacy archive system. We can import and bring along MAM metadata, or whatever metadata the customer has available. In the process, we'll also extract technical metadata and, of course, use some AI tools as well to be able to do some more intelligent summarization of data and things like that. And all of the content plus all of this metadata flows through the entire migration process. So like if we're landing in a cloud service, for example, we'll land the files there, but we'll also then be able to write metadata tags to it. So now the customer has a sort of an immutable connection between the metadata and the content. We integrate with MAM systems and media supply chain systems, so we can automatically register objects that have been migrated in those environments as well, to allow the customer to immediately start to leverage these new storage services or storage systems that they have as well. And gradually reducing the wear and tear on their existing on-premise archive by diversifying a little bit in terms of the technology. We're the only provider that can guarantee a preservation grade migration. So we've done a lot of work in our platform as well to ensure essentially the data that is on data tape in their legacy archive system is bit for bit identical to the data that we migrate into whatever the cloud or object storage service or hybrid service happens to be. So when we say that an object has been migrated, it's true preservation grade. We've authenticated that from end to end. We've preserved this metadata through the flow of this migration process. And again, at the end of the day, what we're intending to do is remove all proprietary wrappers and vendor lock-in. So those assets, as they're being migrated, they're being decoupled from that legacy archive system, so that at the end of the day, the customer has their untethered, unencumbered media assets in their own cloud storage or object store or hybrid environment, owned and managed by them, not, no longer tied into their legacy archive system, and free to deploy, MAM as a SaaS model. They could start editing in the cloud. They could start essentially doing whatever, play to air in the cloud, whatever they want to do then, without having now this let's say linkage back to these legacy systems.
Awesome. Really impressive what you do. Now, you mentioned those two letters AI, which opens the door for a question on AI. But would you agree that AI agents will play an increasing role in helping media companies monetize their high value content? And to
Yeah,
do this well, the AI agents will need immediate access to entire enormous content libraries, so the archives will become more active.
yeah, I think that's exactly a great way to look at it. And whether we're dealing with the high resolution assets or proxies, there's different methodologies for how we can apply this data, or sorry, apply AI to being able to, let's say, add value. And whether that value is discoverability, that's a big thing about this, right? A lot of these digital assets that these customers have on these data tapes were archived, a decade ago, and have nothing more than maybe a name, and probably not much more than that. So, what these legacy archives actually hold is really an opportunity for discoverability of these assets. So we are working with a lot of clients around the world where we are helping them to leverage AI tools to do metadata enrichment, whether it's sentiment analysis, facial recognition. The particular area that we're focusing on is transcription and summarization. So you have sort of contextual, searchable metadata about the content itself. But the truth of the matter is, right now, that's impossible in these architectures as they are today, right? Because these assets exist on data tapes, which are physically removed from the drives. They can't continually be mined. It's a big, heavy lift for the customer even to pull that stuff back to an on-premise storage system to do some type of analysis on it. And really, our point is if you're going to do that anyways, let us decouple you from that legacy system as part of that same process. And the AI can happen with private agents deployed against object storage or cache disk on premise. They can happen, maybe regeneration of proxies in flight as we're migrating the data, and maybe the proxies are what's being mined. In most cases, because of the advancement of the models, the place where it makes the most sense is once it lands in the cloud, whether the proxies or the high res, and using a lot of the tools provided by AWS and Google and other cloud providers to be able to really add value and enrich this capability that if the customer has this data, they're keeping it for a reason, but a lot of times they don't even know what's there.
Gotcha. Now, data tape has played such a large role in digital archives historically. Is tape now dead?
Well, I think if you scroll through your LinkedIn feed, you have customers that are saying, vendors that are saying data tape is alive and thriving, and you have others that are saying it's dead and it's moving away.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on what they're trying to sell.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the reason why we are here where we are is because of data tape and what it brought to the industry. And it wasn't something that was developed at all for media and entertainment. It was leveraging essentially enterprise and IT technologies in a way where we did at Mastech and Front Porch Digital, to be able to leverage these commoditized IT technologies in a way that were very, very, targeted towards the nuances of media and entertainment workflows. Integration into the editing systems and the newsroom systems and production systems and things like that. Um, I think, and certainly what we're seeing globally is the general trend is away from data tape. And it doesn't mean that data tape's dead. There's really only one vendor of data tapes and data
Yeah.
tape media sort of left around. Most of the data tape library manufacturers now have decided to end of life, end of support those systems. So there's a diminishing number of vendors. Now the truth is that for some of the cloud archive services potentially, although it tends to be hush hush, there's potential suspicion that a lot of this is data tape based. So
Yeah.
for the vendors that still exist in the data tape world, now instead of selling to 1,000 customers around the world, they're selling to two or three, and probably they're selling way more than they used to
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that at this point in time, data tape is far from dead. And one of our, you know, let's say, philosophies around this archive transformation journey is it's not an all or nothing conversation, right? The conversation never starts with we're going to migrate our stuff off, and the second after we're done, we're going to smash our data tape robot. There are customers that absolutely do that, and I'm not being facetious, but uh, but there's a lot of them that take a more pragmatic approach where they say, okay, we know that we're not meeting our disaster recovery objectives, we're not meeting our business continuance objectives. We know that we're facing a large capital refresh of this infrastructure because the library or the tapes are end of life, end of support in the coming years. And really this is part of that analysis process before, is that you can't wait until that drop dead date to have this conversation, because the migration itself might take a year or 2 years or 3 years. So what we're trying to do is get into the conversations with customers early enough that we can back time and say, okay, you're going to face $1 million reinvestment in your infrastructure in December 2027. It's going to take 2 years for migration, so we need to start talking about this now. But yeah, what we're doing in a lot of environments is we're actually partnering with an aftermarket hardware support provider, and us ourselves, we do provide aftermarket support on some of the legacy archive software platforms, most importantly Diva. And what this allows us to do is essentially take over operational responsibility for the customer's entire legacy archive environment while we're handling the migration. We could do that at a reduced rate, and then the savings on the support side could be applied to helping offset the cost of the migration service itself. And because our team then becomes the most frequent user of the archive system, a lot of times we'll discover issues that the customer has with their archive before they even know it. We can dispatch our hardware or software support team to fix the problem and resolve it, and notify the customer, by the way, you had a problem, a failure, we fixed it, it's back into operational status, and we're good to go as we continue to push forward for the migration. And in those types of environments, while we're migrating the data, we can actually keep both those systems in sync going forward perpetually. And because we've decoupled that content that we've migrated now, there's no dependency on that legacy archive system. So rather than reinvesting to refresh, they could just simply let that system age out of their environment gracefully. So as a tape drive dies, turn it off. As a server dies, turn it off, until the point where maybe they're relocating facilities and they just leave that infrastructure behind in favor of the new next generation environment that we've migrated them to.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. And Brian, anything we haven't discussed that you'd like to share?
No, I think that we're excited about our obviously our partnership with CineSys to help clients certainly across North America to embrace their next generation archives, and I think that you guys certainly bring a wealth of experience and relationships to help us. We are doing migrations around the globe today off of legacy platforms like Diva, Mastech, SGL, Quantum, Tivoli, DMF. I mean, basically you name it, and we're doing it. So I guess as a general message is don't wait until it's too late. Let us come to the table, help advise you, and help to sort of define what this archive transformation journey might look like. And from there, we have the expertise, we have the skills, we have the capabilities, and we can help modernize and like you mentioned before, really recognize the value and look at, new avenues for monetization and opportunities for these legacy archive systems where they just don't exist today.
Yeah, excellent. Well, but Brian, I'll say as well, enthusiastically, how thrilled we are about our partnership with you. And please, anyone watching with archive transformation questions or needs, please reach out to us. We'll work together to help. And gosh, Brian, I mean, congrats again on your accomplishments. Not Cloud
Thank you.
First is so impressive, but as you spoke about your entire career, you've been doing it throughout your career. Amazing things. So
Thanks,
really,
Roy. I appreciate
really,
it.
yeah. And thanks for spending a bit of time with us and sharing your
Yeah.
knowledge.
I look forward to working with you again, Roy.
Yeah, me too. All right. Have a great day. Thanks,
You
everyone.
too. Thank you.